Hi everybody, it's Dr. Lisa Ann Homick from Homick Advanced Chiropractic, and this episode is called In Your Court. Why? Because after I give my presentation on this video, the ball is going to be in your court and you get to decide what you want to do next. But today I want to talk about making different decisions if you're over age 50. Is there something you want to make better in your life? Sure, let's talk about that right now. Let me tell you what I see every day in my office and why it concerns me, but I work with a lot of middle-aged folks, and that's great. I'm middle-aged too, so I love it. And I wonder, are you a middle-aged worker who's concerned about your career? Good question. Things change a little bit when you get over age 50 and you ask a little more questions. You're thinking more about your future. And are you making enough for your retirement? It's around the corner. Some days it may seem like it's way far away, and some days it's almost here. And then are you growing enough in your career? Is your full talent recognized at your job? Sometimes people are like this. Are you so miserable that you're counting down to retirement? Yeah, are you counting down the days, maybe even the hours? I don't know. Does retirement scare you? Looking at that time frame in your future, does that scare you? Mm-hmm. And what about the people who are in retirement now? Are you enjoying your retirement? Is retirement not enough for you right now? Good questions to ask. Here's what I see. Let's put the ball over here for now. I see people who are stressing out about their future. That's not healthy, constantly stressing. It's also not safe. Being a chiropractor who sees a lot of people with work injuries, sometimes that's how the work injuries happen. I see a lot of work injuries from people between the ages of 50 to 65. They're surprising work injuries. They had no idea that they were at risk. And that's sad. It's scary in a way because it's a very bad wake-up call, because I've seen a lot of people end up disabled before they even reach retirement age. And I need people to prevent that. They need to think about that early on, because that changes their whole retirement planning. It changes their whole future. Their livelihood is definitely impacted, and a lot of new choices have to be made. And that's just not something I want to see happen to people. I mean, I go on the journey with them all the time, and I just wish they had a better outcome sometimes. I see a lot of people who are staying in miserable jobs, and that's not healthy either. And it affects their home life, it affects their relationships, not to mention their workday stinks. And the people around them are also suffering. That's not good. And probably they're all suffering together because they don't know what to do about a poor work situation. Yeah. So I want people to be able to look forward to retirement. I want them to enjoy their last decade of work. I want it to be meaningful. And I've read a lot about age discrimination as well. And it's still kind of around. So some people lose their jobs right at the most unexpected time. And that's also a particular tricky challenge. So I want to help people really face these issues with excitement and maybe a new type of energy to handle these challenges. Let me tell you a little bit about my story, because I've made a lot of changes in my life that I like to share, and help people with their future as well. But my story started out probably when I was in 6th grade. And how does that happen to deal with retirement and your middle-age years and facing these exciting and scary challenges? Well, I had an opportunity to have a negative mindset going on, and luckily I nipped it in the bud. So I don't know, that may or may not be a great childhood milestone, but I think it's important because a lot of people have their ideas in place when they're in childhood, when they're children, and we know the brain can go beyond negative patterns, and our earliest experiences they're set deep in our brains, but they don't have to be permanent. They don't have to stay that way. But when I was in 6th grade, I developed this paranoia, hypochondriac type of panic. And I talk about it in my orientation video. I lost 2 grandparents a month apart. My mom lost her mom and dad 1 month apart. And I was sad for that, for her. But also having the 2 deaths that close, I thought I was next. I developed this paranoid type of thinking and not realizing this is something I should discuss with my parents. My mom was grieving herself. I kept it inside. I held it in. And I really developed a scared looking back. Everything that happened to me made me nervous. Any little blemish or pimple or scratch on my skin, I thought I was going to be dead next. I thought I was the one who was going to die. In 6th grade, I might have been 9 or 10 years old. And I look back and go, wow, who wants to deal with that? That's something you want your mom and dad to reassure you and give you a hug and not have to worry. You should be outside playing, having fun, and just running up and down the street, climbing trees. Not me. But luckily, I came across a health book at my grandma's house. She had boxes of old books. And one was a textbook geared toward my age. And I read about it. And I read about every body system. It was kind of neat because it broke down the different systems: digestive, respiratory, circulatory, immune. And whatever grade I was in, I wasn't learning this yet. And I read this and said, wow, that's amazing. My body's not doing me in. My body's working hard for me. And that was my first lesson in how the body works and how you should cherish that and be excited over that. So that changed my whole mind completely. I stopped worrying. I didn't think I was going to die. And thank goodness, because it was just, thinking back then, it was just hard to wake up every day and do the things a kid is meant to do. Then around 10th grade, my grandma moved in with us, and she had suffered a stroke and needed to live with our family so we could take care of her. My dad gave me all her pills and said, put them in order. And there was a lot of pills. We didn't want to give her the wrong medicine at the wrong time, and different people were going to be home. So I made a schedule, and I put it on the refrigerator with a ruler and a pencil. She was taking a pill almost every hour of her awake day. First thing in the morning, before breakfast, after breakfast, later on in the morning, during lunch, during the afternoon, before bed. She was taking that many medications. Some were twice a day, 4 times a day, once a day, some were before bed. And I looked at this and I said, is that my life? Now, my grandma was about 86, 87. Well, almost, because she was with us for a number of years. I didn't want that. That made quite a deep impression in my mind. I said, no, I absolutely refuse to deal with this, because I didn't see her getting any better. Nobody did. Nobody. And she lived in fear of falling. She wouldn't walk that much. She was frightful in her thinking. And a part of that was her aging brain, which I focus in on now because I love making the brain work great for you. And I just saw all that fear, and I didn't like that. Didn't want to have to live that kind of life. So that stuck with me, still sticks with me today, because the elderly now are still getting tons and tons of medication. Even 30 years ago, they were saying the elderly are over-medicated. We've got to change something. Nothing's changed. Nothing. And then when I became a mental health counselor and saw the folks falling through the cracks, some of them had physical pain. The psychiatrist said, go see your physician. And then the physicians would do tests and blood work, and they'd say, everything's normal. Go back to your psychiatrist because, well, this is definitely all in your head. Go back. And they were falling through the cracks. And I was providing therapy. But how can they concentrate on therapy if they're not feeling well? So it was just messy all the way around. And that's when I became a chiropractor, because I discovered that chiropractic takes the mind and the body via the nervous system, the brain and spinal cord. When you work on that brain and spinal cord, which is the nervous system, it's the master system of the body. We start at the top. I want you to master your master system, and I teach that. And in my own health, I've learned a lot of things. When you're young, you take things for granted. You think you're immortal, you're going to live forever. And I was pretty uninformed. Everything was on autopilot. I got up, I went jogging, I was pretty active, no worries. Well, that's no way to live. You got to have some type of proactive prevention plan. And what did I do? Well, I just stayed away from soda, but who was I kidding? I ate whatever I wanted when I wanted, without a worry or a care in the world. And, years later, that's going to cause problems. But when you're not having problems, who cares, right? What does this have to do with middle age and retiring? I'll get to that. Don't worry about it. So I had, of course, mechanical stress, chemical stress, emotional stress, but I didn't let it worry me. I just let it build up. My body tolerated a lot, and that's what happens when our bodies are pretty good at tolerating stress until it hits that wall and says, it's time for you to do better for me. And that slowly was happening over time. I could continue to ignore my health because I had no issues. And then I got later on to a point where, I said, I'm the exception to the rule. Nothing bothers me. I'm not affected by things. I'm telling my patients, don't do this and don't do that. And you've got to do more of this and you got to do less of that. But when it came to me, myself, I broke all the rules. I said, I'm different. I'm exceptional. I'm better. Things like that don't affect me. Well, sure, they didn't affect me. I still had a high tolerance level of beating myself up and wrecking my health. Sure. And so that was kind of ignorant of me or arrogant of me to just say I'm different. And I look back and say, Lisa, you're an embarrassment. That's embarrassing when I look back. So I ignored the issues of inflammation. I ignored the issues of blood sugar. I didn't know what insulin resistance meant. Yeah, these are the starting points of failing health, degenerative health. These are the starting points of things that eventually make you end up disabled on your job because you have a work injury that became chronic, or your health is just slowly failing and you have no idea because you're tolerating it. You're getting used to less energy. You're getting used to having more sicknesses every winter. It happens so slowly, you think it's normal. Sure. And then, so I got to the point where I decided to give up business as usual and admit that I was believing wrong information about health, about diet, about aging, and I wanted to get other people informed as well. But it took a lot of me fighting with myself. I had the curiosity, which I hope you have, but sometimes that curiosity brought me to the truths, and I didn't like the truths because I had to give up bad things that weren't good for me. And that's hard to do. I want people to go through the grieving process and say, I'm done, let's get on with better living, so you can enjoy your the end stages of your career before you retire. Or maybe not retire. Maybe you don't want to do that. Maybe you want to go full steam ahead and continue. It all just depends on your goals. But I want you to have a meaningful purpose when you're in middle age 50 and beyond. I want you to still feel like you are important to your community. You're important to society. And that's up here in the brain health. That's the how you deal with all the mental and physical issues of your life with balance, so you can enjoy that. So I've come up with all the ways I've changed. I made a lot of changes in my own daily functioning. It took quite a while for me to, accomplish a lot because I was fighting with myself. I don't want you waste all that time. I think I wasted a couple decades of silliness and believing crazy stuff and then arguing with myself and not wanting to do the things that really bring you health. So I decided I don't want any more inflammation in my body, because that is the introduction. That's the baseline of all diseases, is unfettered inflammation. So I want to teach people how to get rid of that inflammation, how to control their blood sugar, because all disease is a variation of diabetes and blood sugar issues. And that's part of the things I want to introduce to people, because if you can get the energy back into your brain, you can put energy back into your life, and you can make better decisions. You don't make good decisions when you've got the oxygen depleted from your brain, and stress does that. And if you're constantly stressed, your brain isn't going to make good decisions. So we got to break that cycle. And that's what we can do with the coaching process, because these are things no doctor can do in a 7-minute appointment. I can't even do that in a 7-minute appointment. I adjust spines. I have just enough time for that. But to teach people how to be totally comfortable in their bodies, to totally love their bodies, and to know how to energize their bodies, that takes more time. That takes there's a learning part, and then there's an application part. You learn new information, and you get that aha moment and say, wow, I'm really going to do this, and I'm going to change my life, and then you apply it. And there's a lot of establishing a new routine and also refining it as you see what's working for you, and you can change things as you go along. And we do that with the coaching relationship. It is time consuming, but it's valuable time, and it's meaningful, and it's really lasting, because you design your own routines. You design it. Nobody's telling it to you. Nobody's giving you a prescription of pills that sort of takes the control out of your life and manipulates your biochemistry. These are things that you do because you want to do them, and you know they work. That's the exciting part about it. So let me give you a few secrets about the brain to help you get excited about what is ahead for you. Do you know what the word neuroplastic means? Neuroplasticity. Your brain has a lot of that neuroplasticity, meaning your brain can change. Your brain is not set in stone. We used to believe by the age 20 or 21 your brain was done developing, but everything you expose your brain to teaches it something new. And sometimes we also continue the same exposures, so things are really ingrained deeply. Some good things and some not good things. So we want to extinguish some of the things that aren't serving us well and establish new routines and patterns, because the brain is very good at learning, as long as we do it the right way, so we can get the important things established nicely, and the unserving things, we get rid of them and we unestablish them, if that's a word. But we can extinguish these patterns. If we go back to the early terms of psychology, we can extinguish things that we don't think are serving us anymore. And that's through brain neuroplasticity, the exercises of exposure that we give our brain, learning. And the brain learns based on the things we do over and over again. So that is pretty interesting. And if you read the book, The Brain That Changes Itself, it's an easy to read book. It's a fun to read book, and it will give you positive feelings about what you can do. There are some monkey studies that I thought were pretty interesting, and I'll share it real quickly with you. Taub, T-A-U-B, I don't remember his first name, but he did studies with monkeys. He severed their nerves so one hand wouldn't work. And he studied them. Well, one hand didn't work. They used the other hand and they caught their food. They were able to do that. And that, when you think of it right away, like, oh, there's nothing to that. Anybody can just use their free arm. So what did he do next? He tied that arm behind their back. So now they didn't have the use of either arm. And guess what happened? They started using this arm again. So you got to read the book, because I'm giving you like the short version. They were able to somehow reconnect their brain to the arm where the nerves were severed, and they did it. Now, monkeys, for them, it's just a matter of survival. They want food, they want that banana, they're going to find it, they're going to eat it, and they're going to make their hand work. And the funny thing about that is they're doing it without anybody teaching them. They're just doing it on instinct. Sure. And Professor Taub established a lot of stroke centers around the country based on his studies of waking up parts of the body that we think have gone asleep, that we think are damaged. But it comes from the wiring in the brain. Your body takes on a different area of the brain, rewires it, and puts it to use. You can do that in your own life. Neuroplasticity, you can change your brain. And I don't care how old you are, because we know your brain has that ability, as long as we're taking good care of it. We don't want to leave it up to chance. We never want to put our health on autopilot. And that's why I use the coaching protocol, BFA, to help people learn all the different things they can do with their brain. You've got the tools. I teach you how to be proficient with those tools. And we make it fun. We make it meaningful. And we customize it to your current needs and your current lifestyle. So let me share some other secrets. They're not really secrets, but what can people accomplish after age 50? Well, I went to the internet and looked up a list of names of people who are successful after age 60 and did totally new things after age 60, when a lot of people think there's nothing left for them except volunteering, which is wonderful, and helping out their family members, which is wonderful. But I don't want people to put any limits on themselves. And I'm going to tell you some people who did things over the age of 60. And I'll start first with Colonel Sanders, age 65. Everybody knows who Colonel Sanders is, but it wasn't until age 65 he started his Kentucky Fried Chicken restaurants. And he did that for many decades. And that kept him busy. And I guess he revolutionized chicken eating. So he's a good one to think of. Grandma Moses, at age 75, she had such severe arthritis, she had to give up her embroidering. She was a very artistic embroiderer. She gave it up and went to painting. She could paint better with her arthritis. She painted until age 101, and you know her famous paintings. That was Grandma Moses, age 75. She stayed busy and she enjoyed it. Clara Peller, age 80. She's the woman who never acted in her life and became an actress at age 80. What got her start? She was discovered and started saying, "Where's the beef?" in the Wendy's commercials. Now you know who she is, yes. And she made a number of appearances in movies. Age 80. There you go. Harry Bernstein, age 96, published his first novel. He wrote a short story in his early 20s, and that was about it until age 96, and got a novel going, and it's published. Cora Aquino de Ramos. Okay, that's a long name. Hang on to it. She lived in the Philippines, during the Philippine Revolution. So this was around 1896, age 84. She had a store and she became a widow. And during the revolution, she protected soldiers and hid them. And she ended up being arrested, but she would never give up her information. And she returned after exile. She returned to the Philippines and was given the title of the queen, the savior, and she was very highly honored for the risks she took. She was very courageous, and that was age 84. She said, "I'm just going to do it." She did, and that's some more good information for you to inspire yourself. One more, I can't pronounce this correctly. Fauja Singh, a marathon runner, age 100, did a marathon in 8 hours. Now, he had done it before, so I kind of cheated giving out his information, doing something new over age 60, but he ran a marathon when he was 92, and it took him 5 hours and 40 minutes. So he slowed down a little bit at age 100, but he still did that marathon anyway, and I think 8 hours is pretty good. I have no idea how long it would take me to do a marathon because I haven't tried it yet. So I don't even have that concept in my brain, but maybe later on, who knows? So the ball is in your court. If you want to learn how to take important health information that might be new to you, there's a lot that's definitely new. There's so much new about the brain that neurologists and researchers are just now discovering. You can put that information to good use. You can learn about it, you can apply it to your life, and we can do this through a coaching relationship so you can meet your goals. What are your goals? Think about those first questions I asked in the beginning of the video, because there's some heavy questions. What about your future matters to you, and what do you want to do about it now in order to make effective changes so you can enjoy your life, so you can be a positive ripple effect to everybody else around you? The ball is in your court, and I want you to decide what you're going to do with that ball. And the next thing you can do is call me up, and we can do a 20-minute goal determination session, because I'm not going to say goal setting because that's still kind of vague. I want you to determine your goals, because that's the starting point. I want you to be excited about them and just look forward to them. Look forward to your goals. So let's do some goal determination in a 20-minute session. The ball's in your court. Thanks for watching.